So part 2, chapter 25, is going to kind of start talking about the problems with urbanization and these huge cities that are forming around the world. You can see the picture on the right. Of course, we're getting a lot of things like slums and squatter settlements. Squatter settlements are where you basically just go stake some land, whether you really own it or not, and that's where you stay. And shanty towns too, these present very terrible living conditions. The problem is, what can governments do to help? A lot of it is out of control. Mexico City, practical example. 1 in 6 Mexicans lives in Mexico City. They have extreme air pollution there because of all the traffic and all the industry. Breathing the air there is like smoking several packs of cigarettes a day. So just breathing is similar to smoking. They have extreme water pollution. They actually have 50% unemployment rate there, so crime is off the charts. Deafening noise, overcrowding, traffic congestion, inadequate public transportation. They actually have about a third of their people live in what's called barrios, or slums, or squatter settlements. They actually get something called fecal snow, which is disgusting because what happens is they don't have proper sanitation systems. And people go to the bathroom literally in the streets or behind their house because it's a very hot and dry climate. It dries very quickly, gets up into the atmosphere, and then it floats back down, and it's kind of basically like breathing in that feces. Now that's things like E. coli, which can get you very sick, and of course that's really cities really have the option of going upward or outward. Now, if you take a look at the picture, this kind of is the idea of what's better. Should you grow up with big cities, or should you go out with urban sprawl? Well, there's a lot of compact cities like Hong Kong, which is a very, very densely packed. You can see the picture on the right. Tokyo, Japan, very densely packed. The thing about them is they have to build up because they don't have. So what they have to do is they have to build up. They build big buildings up instead of out. And the good thing about that is it gives them less of an ecological footprint. Our school, which is very big, and it's only, well, it's like 3 or 4 floors depending on where you're at, actually should have been built in a more concise manner instead of being added onto. And we should have like a 4-story building, but much smaller. That's building up instead of out. Dispersed cities in the United States and Canada, we like it. Think about the suburban area we live in here. We have the city of Milwaukee, and then, of course, we sprawl out from there, which takes a much larger ecological footprint. We are much more of a car-centered idea because we drive. And what I mean by that, motor vehicles, of course, good and bad. You can see the little traffic, something's going on right there where they're all turning around and going someplace else. The United States really has about 32% of the world's cars, so about a third of the world's cars, and we use about 43% of the world's gas, aka big problems. The advantages of cars, of course, increase mobility, convenience, jobs. We have jobs that are in this. Production, repair of vehicles, supplying fuel, building roads, things like that. A lot of it relates to cars, which is great. We can drive, we can to school, obviously. You can live a little bit further away from school. You don't have to walk or ride your bike, especially in cold climates. It's a good thing. Disadvantages are they produce a huge amount of outdoor air pollutants, such as in Los Angeles or Phoenix, where they are encased by mountains, and that pollution tends to just hang there. A lot of accidents, obviously death and injury can be caused by cars too, and it does help create urban sprawl because you can live further away from your job in more of a suburban type or even rural area. And of course, good old traffic. Reducing automobiles use is not really easy, but it can be done. Take a look at Europe, for example. Europe's gas prices are skyrocketing. They go by the liter, of course, so it's hard to compare to our gallons. But what happens is the more gas is expensive, the less you are likely to drive. Difficult to pass in the United States. We have strong opposition. Mass transit, obviously, a lot of people don't like that. Buses and trains. Dispersed nature of the United States. Maybe we should have a tax shift. What a lot of people don't realize is our gas is actually subsidized by our taxes. So we pay taxes to keep gas prices artificially low. Maybe we can raise parking fees. Take a look at that picture, by the way, in the upper right. Those 2 cars trying to get through the toll at one time. 2 geniuses. Maybe tolls on roads, maybe that would slow down people from driving. Maybe we should promote car sharing a little bit more. We don't have car sharing lanes in our metro area, in the Milwaukee area, but a lot of cities do. So what you have to have is two people in a car. That kind of saves money because that second person isn't driving to work. Charge a fee to drive into a major city. It is working in some areas around the, not so much in the United States. Let's do things like bicycles, maybe rail systems, like the rail system, the Amtrak that goes between Milwaukee and Chicago, which is excellent form of transportation. Light rail systems, even things like you see in the picture, even trolley systems. Phoenix just went to a trolley system. You got to have the right climate for it, though. Buses, rapid rail system between urban areas is another example. One example is in Los Angeles. They actually have dug since the early 1900s a bunch of tunnels underneath their city in order to put in a mass transit system. Well, what happened was National City Lines actually bought it out and dismantled the streetcar idea. And what they did was they bought it, basically the tire and car industry bought it because they would not sell as many cars or tires, and we would actually be saving money. But of course now, since they dismantled that program, we're actually losing money, and it's causing more things like air pollution, which is a bad thing. There's actually programs on once in a while where you see people that are homeless living in these tunnels now, but they're there. Land use planning is very important to city development. Land use planning encourages future population growth, economic development, property taxes, environmental and social consequences. There's something called zoning. The three main types of zoning are residential, commercial, and industrial. Think about Brookfield, most of it's residential. So where you live, your house is residential. Along Blue Mound Road, Corporate Drive, things like that, the mall, those are all corporate or commercial rather. And we might have a little industry in Brookfield a lot. Smart growth works as the idea that we reduce dependence on cars, we control direct sprawl, we cut wasteful resources. So let's build our cities a little bit smart of energy. A couple examples: Oregon, very efficient land use system. Land is permanently zoned, so it can't be changed. A lot of times, like even in Brookfield, they tried to at one time convert the Ruby Isle area over, which I believe is zoned either agricultural or residential, into a commercial, so they could build buildings there, but that did not go through, which is a good thing. All areas have growth boundaries, so they say, hey, nope, can't build any buildings there, we got to keep it as a park. All planning giving to land conservation and development commissions to protect them. Something called a cluster development is a mixed-use housing and village. Right across the street from here is an excellent example. Ruby Isle, you can see the picture there. It's got houses in it. It's conveniently located next to post offices and restaurants and grocery stores and, of course, school. That's a mixed use. So we've got a little commercial, we've got a little residential. I like that a lot. Preserving and using open space, you can see Central Park there. The United States is excellent at having parks. We preserve that land. Nothing can be built in there. Of course, it's surrounded by a bunch of buildings, but that's a great idea. We have green belts. Vancouver and Toronto are like this. Western European cities are like this, where we keep that green, literally belt or area from being by anything else. New urbanism is growing. We have conventional housing development. There's something called cluster development. You can kind of see cluster development on the picture on the right, where it's got all the industry maybe in this area, all the commercial in this area, all the residential maybe in this area, so they're clustered into groups. New urbanism, old village idea, about 50 years ago was very common, like in the city of Milwaukee when people lived in that urban area, where they walked everywhere. They walked to the grocery store. We had neighborhood grocery stores. We had neighborhood schools. We didn't drive nearly as much. Mixed use and diversity kind of design, quality urban design, environmental sustainability. So again, we were walking instead of driving. That's one great way of obviously saving fossil fuel resources for future generations, and a lot smarter transport too, like biking. Eco cities are green cities. The idea behind them: build and redesign for people, use renewable energy resources, recycle and purify water, use energy and matter resources efficiently, prevent pollution and reduce waste, recycle, reuse, compost, protect and support biodiversity. Urban gardens are a unique thing. Gardens on rooftops are a very good thing. Cities don't have the high throughput idea now where a lot of resources go in. to it, but not a lot come out. So maybe they can start growing their own food in these big cities. Why not? Most of the rooftops are actually flat. Zoning and other tools for sustainability too to protect that resource. Here's just an example of an indoor farming area. Of course, we've got the rooftop greenhouses. We've got hydroponic gardens, which you can see on the right. Actually, O'Hare Airport has that. That's actually, I believe, that taken there. Skyscraper farms. On top of the skyscrapers, we have farms. Ecological. There's advantages and disadvantages. Stuff will class a little bit. China's vision for an eco-city. 2008, a city in China was being designed carbon neutral city. As far as I know, it's still being in programming. Use renewable resources for energy, reduce the need for cars, use electric or hydrogen-powered cars, and use them a lot more transportation, which is a eco-village movement is kind of the idea that we have these eco-hoods. So in cities, urban areas where we have a lot of buildings that were destroyed, let's plant some gardens in there. Get some greenery in there. Get some good sustainability going in there. In 1993 in Los Angeles, they really started this idea. Again, growing local gardens, growing your local food. There's area in cities, not a lot obviously in rural areas, but it's very possible. All right, that's it for 25.